I was kicked out of the choir. I was so bad.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
yeah, don't make me sing.
We're live. Oh.
Hey!
Awesome, and with a whole minute to spare. Cool. Am I in the shot? Amazing. So I'm Lauren, founder of the Growth Academy. Thank you for tuning in to the first Power Hour where I've actually had a guest, so this is very exciting. My guest today is Andrew Katzwinkel. I've just mastered his surname.
Sorry, there's a little bit of a mouthful.
And he is founder and CEO of FOMO Group. So thank you for joining me.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I've got some hairy questions that I'm going to ask you. Well,
I'm a little bit nervous. You haven't shown me these questions, so we'll see if I can wing it.
hopefully not too hairy.
Yeah.
And also, if anyone listening has questions that pop into your mind as we're going along, feel free to comment them, and we'll also throw those at Andrew as we go.
Cool. Bring it on. Bring it on.
Awesome. So to start with, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and FOMO Group and
Sure.
why you decided to start this business in particular?
Sure. So, in short, FOMO is a gamified labor payment solution for the travel industry. We're a fintech travel company that's aimed at making travel accessible and affordable to all keen travelers out there. The number one reason why I started the company was I've seen that a large group of people that or around the world are being prohibited from traveling and seeing the world. And really came down to the major pain point of price being the issue why people can't afford travel and why people aren't getting the opportunity to travel. So when I looked at the various things that were within the market and I identified a gap in the market with offering quite a unique payment plan that assisted keen travelers out there, I felt like I was onto something quite unique. And that's kind of gave me the leap of faith to kind of take this opportunity and see where I could take it. Yeah.
Amazing. So I've heard you say leap of faith a couple of times.
Yep.
I think this might be a go-to line for you. So tell us exactly, what is your leap of faith? What did it look like?
Sure. I think it really came down to me kind of committing the fact that I was going to do the startup and take this opportunity in my mind. I think you have to like juggle. Is this the right thing to do? What are the risks that entail? Where's it going to take me? Where do I want to go in my life and things like that? And I think when you make the commitments in your mind, that's when you've really decided, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And you kind of, everything else falls away and you kind of say, well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm focused at this. I'm going to put my whole heart and soul, my blood, sweat and tears into this. And no matter the outcome, success or failure, I'm going to take it as it comes. And that's kind of how I've tried to treat this journey that I'm going down. You're never going to be able to get all the right answers and do everything right, but you when it's something you love and you're passionate about, it doesn't really matter about the hours or the time that you're taking to get something off the ground. It's something that you really do fall in love with.
Yeah.
And I think it was the best decision I ever made, personally.
And so have you ever wavered? You started in 2016, right?
Yeah.
So it's been, 12 months of solid effort around the clock. Have you had moments where you've just gone, shit, maybe this is the wrong business?
Sure. I think I've had some very dark times and times where I've had to question myself, like, do I even have the skill set to do this? And the business acumen to really kind of see this all the way through. But when you start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, or you see the reward that you're giving to people within the travel space, for example, it makes it all worth it. It really, really does. So it is very difficult to never ever feel like this is the world is against you, and you're kind of butting your head against the wall. And for a long time as an independent founder, I felt like sometimes I was a crazy person. I was running around and I was the only person saying this, and people would tell me like, this is never going to work. And you just got to kind of reassure yourself every day the beliefs and the reasons why you're doing it. and back yourself. And then if you do that, eventually people start coming around, and you turn the haters into lovers. And look, at the end of the day, this is my opinion. This is not advice. It can be different from each other individual, but the way that it's happened for me, I've really just stayed true to myself. What the reasons why I'm doing it, and looked at it as a learning curve as opposed to something that has to work. It's not about that. It's about the learnings that I'm getting every single day doing what I'm doing, that is going to put me in a better foot forward into anything I do in the latest stage of my life.
Totally, and I think that's really good advice. And like some of the questions that were coming in before were about like staying in the right mindset and handling failure. And so the way that you're positioning it and saying like it's all a learning experience, and if at the end of the day that's all I get, I mean hopefully it's not, but at least you're progressing and like developing yourself as a person as well as developing this business.
I mean, I don't even think the things that I'm aware of that I'm learning on a day-to-day basis, and it's only going to come out the wash at a later stage in my life where I'll be able to look back at this current experience that I'm going through and say, that was actually a big life lesson, or that was a big learning curve within my business career or personal career. And that's the beauty of taking yourself out of your comfort zone and immersing yourself in a space that you have to learn and absorb. And you never know what it's like on the other side of the fence. So from an entrepreneurial point of view, you do have to take that leap of faith. You do have to take yourself out of your comfort zone. You have to put yourself in a position where you are vulnerable, and have an open mind about how you want to go about it, and just really take it as a lesson as opposed to I'm always right type of thing. And I know entrepreneurs.
Do you ever have that?
Yeah, I know entrepreneurs can be a little bit hard-headed and like to be right. It's hard not to be right. But at the end of the day, it's the consumer is going to tell you exactly what is right and what is wrong, and that's who you should ultimately listen to.
Okay, cool. And so, how did you know it was going to work, or like what was the first testing that you did that made you go, cool, this is really going to work, I can stand behind it?
So I used the lean startup methodology, and that's really assisted through the early stages of my idea generation and how I went about it. So what I did was I created a concierge MVP, and a concierge MVP really is a minimum viable product that is done without any tech involved. It's cool. Kind of an offline way of proving your concept. And what we did was we actually hosted an event where we offered a bunch of activities for various travelers, and we facilitated that whole entire process from end to end. And that whole entire week that we did that just taught us so much about what we were going to build, how we were going to build it, and what needed to happen between speaking to a client and converting that client, and then actually having that client come back as a happy client. It was that gave me that first type of validation. But it was also just asking friends and family. If I take it one step before that MVP and before that leap of faith even, was when I just really came up with the idea. And it's asking the people closest to you, because sometimes the people closest to you are going to be the people that are going to give you the most honest answer. And sometimes it's something that you don't want to hear, but you've got to accept it. I mean, if your own parents or your own best friend is telling you that's a bad idea, then I would probably don't do it because they're the ones that they're going to give you the most realistic answer and honest answer.
Unless they want you to stay in your steady job and bring home your
correct.
paycheck.
I mean, it can be like some of those idol moms where they just tell their daughters that they're awesome at singing.
Put you in a leotard and
but no. I think you try to speak to the people that are closest to you early on, and to see what they have to say, and normally they will give you quite an honest answer, and then you can build off that. You can build off their feedback and then start going to more professionals within the space. You can ask people that have succeeded in other businesses before, and those are your processes of that early validation.
Totally.
Before you really start getting your first customer, you've got to start seeing if people are accepting it, and it's easiest to start with the people that are closest to you.
Definitely. And I think like the lean startup is something that everyone who's going into entrepreneurship now should be aware of, and I think follow, because like FOMO now has such a massive tech element. Like it's built on this amazing tech platform and all these algorithms. I'm assuming.
You're very right.
So it's great to hear, like, to start out, you don't even really need money. Like you can just come up with an idea, whip something up. Like we were talking, I'm looking to Trav behind the scenes, but last week we were talking about Zappos, the shoe store, which is obviously massive now in the States. But to start with, all he did was go down to the local store, take pictures of the shoes in the shop, and just put them on a website. And then if someone bought it, he'd run down to the shop and buy the pair of shoes. So like basically $0 outlaid and really, really good testing before you then build.
Correct.
So
that's exactly it, and that's exactly what a concierge MVP is.
Yeah. Awesome.
And I mean, I agree with what you're saying, is that you don't need a lot of money in order to prove a concept. And that's what everyone is looking from an investor point of view, from business opportunities, from partnerships and things like that. They want to just see validation. And a lot of people get stuck in the mindset that the only way I'm going to validate something is that if I put a huge amount of money into this perfect tech, and then wait until it's it's so perfect before I put it into the market. And a lot of time you start building things that you believe is the right answer, as opposed to what your customers actually want, and that's where people get a little bit unstuck. So that's from a personal opinion. I would definitely go about reading the Lean Startup book and then following those steps. It's very good.
So I mean, you mentioned funding, and so I think you guys are obviously funded now and are going really well and also generating revenue, but when is the right time to take on funding, and are there any kind of watch outs for doing it too soon?
I think the investors will kind of tell you if you're too soon, or kind of quite straightforward. But a lot of the time, what you start seeing happening is that the investors or the people that you're speaking to will continue to move the goalpost. And when you start kind of getting pulled along, then you should kind of draw a line in the sand and have one more meeting and say, look, what is it that you really want? What do you want to see that is going to make you invest in us? And then go away and get that stuff done. And until such time that you have got that stuff done, there's no point even communicating with them, because they'll just continue to move the goalposts further and further away until they eventually feel that you're ready. So
feels like a heated topic for you.
It is most definitely. It's something that we're definitely going through at the moment. So that's my bit of advice around that, or my opinion, is that I'd rather try to draw a line in the sand, because it is a full-time job. A lot of companies actually specifically hire just for that type of role. And it's hugely time-consuming. It distracts you away from the actual focus of running the business. And a conversation around money is never really a nice conversation in the first place. So you should just try to find out what they're wanting, and go out, get that done, and then if they continue to move the goalpost, then they potentially weren't even going to be the right investors in the first place. So instead of getting pulled around the park, losing time, stressing yourself out, I would propose that.
No, I think that's a good proposal. And also, I think people think as soon as they've got funding, it's going to be home free, they can do whatever they want, but funding never comes without a lot of expectations and that eye constantly over your shoulder, which I'm sure you're also aware of. But if you take it on too soon, or you're potentially doing a really good sales job of something that's a little bit shady, and you have those expectations, and it can be really hard to live up to it, and it's just extra pressure that you don't need.
And you also want the right investors. I think money isn't the be all and end all. Money isn't going to solve your problems. It's not. I could say, but you want people that are backing you as an entrepreneur first of all. You want them kind of strategically invested within the industry that you're in. They can open up doors, they can open up channels and opportunities for you. But at the end of the day, these are people that you ultimately working with. So if you can't even sit in a room with the individual for longer than an hour, then probably it's not the best thing to get into like this relationship, which is almost like a marriage. Then there's no point in even going down that road. You'd rather look for the investors that you believe that you can get along with, that you can trust. I think that's another point. Trust is probably one of the most important things that we look for from our investor group. Can we trust these individuals? Are they looking out for our best interests? Are they, what's in it for them? What's in it for us? And also be able to have a open conversation. It's something
more than just transactional.
Yeah, exactly. And if you can tick all those boxes, then that's great. I think also about ticking all those boxes is more than likely you're never going to be able to tick every single one of your boxes.
It's like dating. You have to compromise.
You've got to compromise somewhere. So you've got to look at the things that you're not willing to compromise on, and the things that you're willing to compromise on, and then be realistic about that. I think if you're too sticky about it, you're never going to get what you want, and then you might miss your window. So it's kind of a hybrid approach of getting what you feel is important to you, and then also delivering on what the investor is wanting.
Okay, cool. And so, we first met 5 months ago now.
Beginning of Techstars.
So FOMO, for people listening who don't know what Techstars is an accelerator. It's global, but here in South Africa, it's partnered with Barclays. So they fund and they run a 3-month program for fintech startups specifically. And so that's when we met, because FOMO got accepted into that. So maybe you can just talk a bit about why you applied for a program like that and how it impacted you. Sure.
Yeah. So we applied for the program because we believe we are a fintech business, and the space and the space that we're playing in. We also see a lot of synergies within the bank. And our concept and the value that we can add to society through the bank. And because Barclays and Absa were sponsoring this program, we saw a great channel or pipeline opportunity for us to get into the door with Absa and Barclays and potentially create a solution that is offered to everyone within the Absa Bank. So that was obviously the reasons why. We also looked at the program and saw that at such an early stage that we were in, it was only going to help benefit us in terms of learning again and accelerating the growth of your company. So they say that within 3 months you accelerate your company by 18 months through the Techstars program, and we've really seen that. So what we did, what I was saying earlier, was that we decided to pull the trigger on our B2B solution at the beginning of Techstars, which I think was a very risky thing for us to do because it wasn't really the right time for us to do that. But because of the opportunity that we had in front of us, and because we knew we were going to be able to validate and accelerate our company within 18 months over 3 months, we felt that there was no better time than the present to actually pull the trigger on that and actually test. And we're now sitting 5 months down the line, and we're integrating our B2B solution into 2 major hotel chains, a ticketing company, a stock file company, a wedding company, and Absa pilots are rolling out and things like that, where if we hadn't done that, we could very well still be in that, should we do the B2B side, should we not do the B2B side, and still having unanswered questions. Now we kind of have a strong base of where we're working from, where we want to go, what we want to do, and now we're going to go, end of the year with a very clear idea of where we want to take the business. And I think that's what the best thing that the accelerator program did for us.
A risky time to take a pivot, but I guess. So before, when we were talking, I was thinking about your pivot and kind of going from your B2C offering to this B2B offering. I don't know so much if it is a pivot though, because you're now doing both, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So how did that happen? How did you decide to keep pushing on both?
Yeah, sure. So, look, I don't see it as a pivot either, because it was always our larger, more scalable play.
Yeah.
Our B2C Fomotravel is really our proof of concept, and is what we put out into the market to test and validate if keen travelers wanted to use this type of payment method.
Yeah.
And we didn't realize that the Fomotravel concept was going to get so much traction and so much response from the market. So we don't want to kill it and kill it off. But
plus, Trav is staying in one of your hotels in Mauritius in a couple of months.
Oh, really?
So can't kill it now.
and yeah, of course. Yeah, we're definitely not killing it, that's for sure. But so we identified it quite early on that this is the direction that we wanted to take, because what we realized is that in order to kind of make travel affordable and accessible, which was our major idea of doing this, so to make travel accessible to absolutely anyone within South Africa and the world, needs to become commercial. It doesn't mean that one person needs to own the technology and keep it to themselves, because no one else is always going to be able to use it then. So what we decided was, if by commercializing this, flag
this wants to be on film.
By commercializing it, we are making it accessible and sustainable for everyone. So that's what we're doing now, and
but I think
we'll see where. I mean, focus is also key, so we'll see where it takes us.
Yeah, and see what drops fastest. But I think it's interesting, because your B2B play, I would imagine, is really driving your B2C as well, and those partnerships you're forming and getting those really amazing brands on board and talking about FOMO and people seeing that at checkout there is building credibility and stuff, driving traffic for your B2C solution.
So essentially, just to explain the B2B side, is that Fomotravel has become a client of Fomo Payments. Okay. And you're going to start seeing buttons on hotel websites, on flight companies' websites, on tour operators' websites, where you'll see a button that will allow you to create a payment plan according to whatever you've selected prior to that.
Okay.
Our Fomotravel site will run on the technology of our Fomo Payments API, and that's why we see that we're leveraging off one another. They're working harmoniously with one another to benefit the others. So we're learning from our consumer side, and we're taking those learnings into our B2B side and offering a better solution for people that are going to consume our B2B product.
Perfect. So even though it looks like two separate businesses from the outside, it's not like you're running two completely separate businesses.
No, not at all. They need one to live with the other, and really the B2B is the payment mechanism around it, and how those recurring payments get set off, how you gamify your savings process, so by adding crowdfunding it, so sharing your travel goal with your friends and family to get outside contributions, which works incredibly well within the wedding and honeymoon space.
Yeah.
And then the addition of adding rewards-based systems and incentive-based systems. So you can now use your likes of Absa Rewards or eBucks or U-Account, Standard Bank U-Account, to reduce your financial obligation along the way. So you spend money at a petrol station, you earn points, and you can convert those points into rand value on the Fomotravel side. And then incentives and your loyalty program is basically for the hotels and flight companies that offer a loyalty program to upsell and cross-sell through their loyalty program.
So basically, FOMO is going to be everywhere very soon. So
that's the plan. But our feet are very, very grounded, and from the get-go, I'm no expert. We definitely still got a long way to go. I think I read a saying the other day that it takes you about 10,000 hours before you can become a professional in something.
Okay.
And I worked with a quick math sum, and I've after about 2 years, I'm thinking I'm sitting just underneath 5,000 hours, so I'm not even halfway there.
Still, that's a lot of hours.
So I mean, that's also working a lot of hours, obviously. But
then you have your team working hours for you.
Yeah, but it still doesn't. You're still not a professional in actually what you're doing until you've really spent at least 4 to 5 years doing what you're doing and doing the same thing over and over every day. So I'm no expert in this. I'm learning every day. I'm failing every day. But I'm just doing my best, really. Yeah.
Well, no, I think that's why I was excited to have you on as well, because so many people watching in the Growth Academy community are people that are just starting out, and so it's great to talk to people who are now experts down the track, but that's less relatable than you, who started 12 months ago and has seen all this amazing traction and had these learnings that you're sharing. I want to talk really quickly about your team because I can see them in the background watching us.
Yeah, gosh.
No pressure.
Are they working? Probably not.
But you're expanding quite quickly, so just talk about who did you decide to hire first, and how did you decide which part of your business to outsource?
So the first person that I was because I was an independent founder, I did start this myself, and like I said earlier, I felt like I was a crazy person, and but I felt like it was the right thing for me to do. I needed to do this for myself, and then I quickly realized that this is never going to work with one person, and that you need a support structure. It's very, very key. So my advice, my advice is, I don't want to really give advice, but my advice is do try to find your founding team before you launch, and when you're starting out, because that structure and setting up all those type of things is it just makes the journey that much more enjoyable. Like I said, I mean, there were some dark times all by your lonesome. But the first person that I got on and the first person that I was looking for was someone that I could trust. Above all, I needed a partner. I needed someone that would be by my side, that I just fully trusted with everything. And a lot of that times comes with a good friend. So the partner that I got on was an old schoolboy of mine, a Hilton College friend. He was actually my roommate. I didn't ever think that we would work together when we were at school and we were running around the rugby field. But it's funny how 10 years later down the line that your lives do cross again. He brought specific skills that I didn't have to the team, and that it seemed like a very clear decision for someone that I could trust, and a skill set that I needed, and the business required. So that was the first kind of hire that came on board, and now he's the CEO and the partner of Fomo Group.
Amazing.
Yeah, so it started with him, and then that just leads into opening more doors. So like the next people that really came on was someone that he trusted and he had worked with prior to joining the company, and the big corporations that they worked for, and that just really starts developing and molding into such a nice team. And for us, our team is everything. We enjoy coming to work. We try and make it fun. And so that people actually enjoy and are getting satisfied by their daily work lives.
Totally. Well, and also like FOMO, the brand itself is so fun that you need to live that as well and have a culture so that it comes through in everything you do, like this, for example. Cool. So I know you said you don't want to give advice, but I'm going to ask you anyway. And this is maybe my last question, but what would be your top 3 tips for people listening who are looking to start out?
Sure. Support, make sure that your support structure is in place. That could be family members, that can be your personal life in terms of where you are, where you're living, how you're living, being fit and exercising, and just kind of make sure that is as sound as possible and settled as possible. You don't want major changes constantly happening in your life in terms of moving and things like that, or disruptions.
Although you did just move.
But it's quite a lot later down the stage. But it's a difficulty that I went through. So again, this is my advice from my personal self.
Okay.
I would say your runway and your cash flow. Make sure that you're on top of that, because you will burn through cash. And that's what why a lot of startups end up failing, is that you burn through cash too quickly and you don't realize the expenses of how long it's going to actually take you to get something into the market and start actually bringing in revenue, and actually turning a profit as well. So make sure that you've got a little nest egg and somehow saved, or some kind of way to bring in money, if it's taking a second job, if it's being a waiter, some form of way of continuing to bring in money whilst you're actually building the thing that you want to build. And the last thing,
hold your breath.
I would say, I would say everybody, it's quite a nice saying, it was actually Mike Tyson I wrote on the wall there, but it was everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. So and really what I take from that is that you can plan and plan and plan, like as much as you can, and you never really know what the outcome is going to be. So put your full heart into it, kind of, go all in. Don't kind of sit on the rafters, because if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you can't sit on the rafters. It's an all or nothing type of thing. You've got to go at full-heartedly, and failure or success, how it comes out at the end of the day, you will learn from it. So don't be scared. Just go for it, and you won't regret it.
Amazing. Well, for someone that didn't want to give advice, I feel like that was very good advice. So thank you so much for coming on Power Hour.
My pleasure.
Everyone listening, check out FOMO. Join Trav in Mauritius. We'll share his dates. And yeah, tune in next week, same time, Thursday at 4 p.m. And I will let you know who we're speaking to next Monday. So
awesome,
stay
guys.
tuned.
Thank you very much, Lauren.
Thank you.
All the best. Shake your hand. So have you booked a package to us?
No.